Okay, you saw the name of this video, so let's not waste any time. But before I get started, I just want to say that I'm only including the versus mode race of these tracks. Alright, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, I don't understand why they have to bring the SNES Mario circuits back in every single Mario Kart game, but I actually like what they did this time around with the track. They combined Mario circuits 1, 2, and 3 together to make a big track, which makes every lap unique and pretty fun, honestly. It's a pretty fun track, but when you compare it to the rest of the tracks in this game, it's still kind of bland, which is the reason why I have it here at the bottom. The thing about Crown City is that I actually like the track as separate variants, like in the Mushroom Cup and Shell Cup, but together they just remind me too much of a city track in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and we have way too many of those, if you ask me. So in the versus mode, unfortunately, this is as high as it goes. I love beach tracks, but at the end of the day, Koopa Troopa Beach is really just a circle. However, I do still think that the track can be fun to play, which honestly can be said about the tracks earlier too. This is also my favorite location to visit in free roam. Unlike most people, I actually never really disliked Desert Hills. I actually always thought it was a pretty decent track. However, this one kind of disappointed me because I thought that this track was going to get a huge glow up in this game. So I was kind of looking forward to this track, but honestly, it really didn't get that much of an upgrade, which is a little bit disappointing, but the track is still kind of fun to play for me. This course definitely has one of the coolest concepts in the game. It's like the original Donkey Kong game where you have to go from one little platform to another, except in execution, you're really just driving in straight line after straight line. However, there are plenty of things to do in this track on the straight lines, like dodging obstacles and grinding on rails that do keep this track entertaining for me. Yeah, I know this is the starter course, so this course really isn't supposed to be that high. In fact, you might even think that this course should be lower. But for a starter course, this is really good. Along with teaching you the basics, like how to drive and control your vehicle in this game, this course also gives you optional grind rails and walls to jump on, so you can learn the new tech much faster. To me, Peach Stadium feels like a sequel to Mario Bros. Circuit, with it being at the end of the game instead of the beginning of the game. And instead of teaching you the new mechanics, it really shoves all the mechanics that you learned and says, okay, here's everything that you've learned in this game in this one track. And since everything in this game is in this track, that's why it's better than Mario Bros. Circuit. The water mechanics in this game are very strange. Sometimes it feels like you can actually drift on them normally, but most of the time they feel very weird and very different. Wario Shipyard is a victim of the water mechanics feeling very weird, and that's unfortunate because about 90% of this track is on the water. This track is still not bad, but you know that it's not a good sign when the intermission when you're doing multiple tricks on the water is more fun than the actual track. I don't know why Nintendo insists bringing this track back. I mean, it's good, but definitely not on the level where it needs to be in the past 3 home console Mario Kart games, especially since not much has changed. However, the few changes in this course are pretty cool. I like how they added more tricks to do and a few more shortcuts to take. I will say, this is a very unique and cool course. We've never had a Mario Kart course where we went into a movie theater, let alone go inside the movie theater screen and drive on the film tape. This is a great track, but the only reason why it's down here at number 21 is because the layout is only good and not extremely amazing. This is not Choco Mountain. They completely changed this into like a Charging Chuck Stadium. The course is completely unrecognizable. The only thing that stays the same is the layout. But honestly, since they keep bringing this track back, I think that's a good thing. It keeps the course nice and fresh. Although this course has very cool theming and is one of my favorite layouts in the game, around 50% of the track takes place on the water. Not only that, but the water section is very narrow, and the water sections being very narrow in this track, plus the water controls already being weird, definitely knocks this track down a couple placements. However, in this track, the water section is not nearly as long or weird to control as Wario Shipyard's water sections, so that's why this track is higher than that. I know I just bashed Crown City earlier for being like a city track, But Peach Beach is like a city track, but in a good way. Because the first lap, or the original section of Peach Beach, is kind of boring. But the second lap is actually very fun and actually brings life into the track. The reason why this track is not higher, however, is because of the third section. They're on water, first of all, and they're kind of just boring straightaways. I'm gonna be honest, I have a major problem with Whistle Stop Summit. It's that you can go on the rails all the time in this track. And while going on the rails can be fun, on the sections when there's not much to do, it's very boring. However, this track actually does give you the option to go off the rails too. So you can only go on the rails during the fun parts if you want, which is what I do. And honestly, when you do that, it makes this track very fun. Usually the nature-themed tracks are some of my favorites in the game, like Maple Treeway and Wild Woods, for example. But Acorn Heights is kind of the exception to this. I was a little bit disappointed when it didn't live up to those two tracks. However, this track is still great, and I can see why it would be people's favorites, with all the branching paths and shortcuts to take. To be honest, back then I kind of found DK Pass kind of boring the first time I played it in Mario Kart 7, because back then it was just a snowy mountain with not much going on, not even a Donkey Kong themed mountain. But here they turned this course into a ski resort, added some more shortcuts and alternate paths, and made this course DK themed. And honestly, that's really all they needed to do to make me enjoy this course a lot more. And with that, we're about halfway done with the ranking and done with the B tier. If you made it this far, comment below and share your list, and tell me what you agree with or disagree with so far. Just like DK Pass, I really did not like this course originally on the N64. But they upgraded Wario Stadium so much because they added so many alternate paths. Probably the most alternate paths on any track in this game. And all of them are very fun, making this course a complete blast to play now. Plus, they made the course an acceptable amount of length. It's just the same old classic Airship Fortress, which is a very good thing, keep that in mind. Even though they did add a couple grind rails, it's really faithful to the original, and the original was a masterpiece. Which is why I wish I can rank this track even higher, but I can't, because the rest of the tracks are either new tracks that just completely blew me away, or retro tracks that just really improved on the original. Forget what I said about Wario Stadium having the most alternate paths in the game, because Shy Guy Bazaar just absolutely blows it out of the water in that department. With all these alternate paths, it just makes this course go from pretty decent to just absolutely amazing. You can honestly just discover a new path every single time you play this track, whether it's on purpose or by accident. Just like Cheep Cheep Falls, this course has one of my favorite layouts in the game and also has a water section. Except you don't have to twist and turn, you just go straight. But unlike Cheep Cheep Beach, the straightaway is not boring because it actually gives you tricks and flips that you can do and walls you can grind on. Plus, the water section takes place in a cave, which is absolutely gorgeous in this track. Just like Dandelion Depths, Faraway Oasis has one of my favorite layouts in this game. And even though there is a water section that does suck to drift on, there are two different alternate paths that you can take on the side of the track to completely avoid the water section. Plus, there's also a cool waterfall section at the end. The only way this track would have been higher is if the animals were on the actual track. Otherwise, this would have been an S tier track, but as it is, it's still great. This course is kind of similar to Airship Fortress in a way, because both of them were amazing tracks originally that are very faithful to their original tracks. However, unlike Airship Fortress, Toad's Factory has many more alternate paths. Airship Fortress has like one or two grind rails to the side, but Toad's Factory, the entire way through, has multiple grind rails and walls to drive on, making this course a blast and even better than the original somehow. Even though there are multiple paths in the Great Question Block rooms that are very satisfying to take throughout the entire track, I feel like I would be almost as, if not just as satisfied if I just took the normal route as well. And that's honestly what I look for most in a Mario Kart World track. Plus, I think the golden path and the theming all around is very cool. Never in a million years did I think that I would have this track this high on the list, but they made the mediocre track from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe so much fun in this game. The side routes in this track are some of the coolest in the game. That hell, even if they're longer, I feel like I would still take them, just because they're cool. And plus, this track also has my favorite shortcut in the entire game at the very end of this course. Dino Dino Jungle in this game reminds me of Toad's Factory in this game in a way, because both of them came back and were fan favorites before. And they also have many alternate paths that they added in this game to both tracks. But the difference between the two is that Dino Dino Jungle got an unnecessary glow up, which is a great thing. They really did not have to change anything to this track, but they did. They took their time out of their way to do that. And that is why this track is higher than Toad's Factory, and it's amazing. Now we're not only entering the top 5, but we're entering the S tier, some of the best courses in this game. And not only that, but some of the best courses in the entire series. I'm not sure yet, but this Rainbow Road just might be the best one of them all. It starts off pretty normal with the first lap, but then you go to this water section, which is usually a bad thing, but there's not too many twists and turns on this section. Plus the water section is very wide, giving you plenty of room to drift as well. Then after that, you arrive at this space station that kind of reminds me of Mario Kart 8's Rainbow Road. Then on that same space station, you arrive at this little area that's like an anti-gravity area that has the super flomps from SNES Rainbow Road on it. And finally, you race alongside Robo DK and the dinosaurs on a train all the way to the finish line. Honestly, calling this a racetrack is just offensive because this is a whole journey. The only reason why it's not number 1 is because of how long it is. But it's okay, because this Rainbow Road, I honestly don't know how they're gonna top it. In the past Mario Kart games, town tracks have always been really good. And this one actually starts at a disadvantage because it is a water track, a little bit at least. So how did it even end up in the S tier? Well, the reason is because every time there is a water section in this track, there's an option to stay on dry land, and those options are very well hidden and they are so fun to take. There's multiple grind rails and walls to go on and just cool paths that you wouldn't expect, meaning you can go a different way every single time you play this track, which just makes this track nice and fresh every single time and absolutely incredible. I do not care what anybody says about this track. This track is just amazing. People are saying that the layout is bad. In my opinion, this is the best layout in the entire game. And the water section actually manages to be fun. There's like one major turn, and even then you could skip it with a mushroom shortcut. And in the straightaways, there's actually stuff to do. You can go through the little snowflakes and jump off a couple of ramps. Plus, that's not even to mention how beautiful the track is. So with the atmosphere and the amazing layout, I don't care what anybody says, I really think that this track definitely deserves top 3. This level is like Salty Salty Speedway on steroids. Take all the alternate paths I talked about in Salty Salty Speedway and times it by 3. Because in this level, there are still alternate pathways that I don't even know how to take. But I know that when I take them, that it's going to be very satisfying. Especially at the end, there's like multiple pathways at the end that you can take, which is very cool. And this is also the first track that introduces lava cuts where you can go through the lava with a mushroom, which is honestly very significant in levels like these. And honestly, everything about this level, especially the end, is just amazing. But there's still one level that I think is even better than this one. I was already highly impressed by SNES Bowser Castle 3 in the last game, but here they completely outdid themselves. It starts off right off the bat amazing, the best start ever in a Mario Kart track with multiple alternate paths to take, and I think you can tell by now that I really love the alternate paths. You can go in the reactor room, you can go on the reactor room rails, you can go on the rails that are very hard to see, you could go on the rails that are on the side of the building and go to the top of the building above the reactor room. And then once you reach after that area, you can either go the normal route, you can take the ultra shortcut, which I still don't even know how to do, or you can take the shortcut on the wall. Even though there are no alternate paths after that part, the track is still absolutely amazing because you go up the lava tunnel and then you start speeding really fast. And it's very satisfying to drive through. You can take even more lava shortcuts. You can dodge all the obstacles. And this is honestly the most fun that I think I've ever had at a Mario Kart track. This specific part right here, the fast lightning part, is like the best part of like any Mario Kart track ever. It's so much fun. And honestly, in a Mario Kart track, I think what matters the most is if you have the most fun. And that is why I have Bowser's Castle ranked at number 1 on this list. Well, if you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching through these weird opinions of mine. By now, most of you were probably pissed that I ranked Starview Peak all the way in the top 3, and that I didn't rank Whistletop Summit in the top half of the ranking. But if you made it this far, honestly, just comment down whatever you liked or disliked, or just comment your own opinions. Honestly, that's the most important, in my opinion. Honestly, most important is just like hearing what everyone else wants to hear. That's why I made this video. But if you enjoyed, I hope you enjoyed that. That's really all I have to say, and see you guys next time.